right, man. Just love that drop at the end, man. Anyway, thank you for joining me. Sales After Dark, where money never sleeps. How's everybody doing? And if you're watching this on the replay, what I typically do is say hi to my peeps, fast forward 5 minutes, and then we'll jump into the actual content. So let's see who is on the scene. I got some early ones here. So let me bring up Herb Boss, chiming in, number one from YouTube, man. Herb, glad to have you here, man. So glad you could join us, man. We got Christopher Monroe. What's up, my guy, Victor? Hashtag, I stay woke. Stay woke or go broke. Are you with me, Chris? Are you with me, Chris? And then my man from LA, I should say Las Vegas, rather. Brian, how's the weather over there, man? Because it is hot here in Georgia, man. Eccentric Smithy made it just in time. Glad you're here, man. Thank you for joining me. Cam Lesh, man. So what? Hello, Victor and everyone. Sparrow's Tail, man. Hey, brother, you're here early, man. Usually you're, once in a while you're just jumping on late, man. So glad you're here. David C. Song, thank you for lending me your ears. Dude, you know where I got that phrase, David? So there's a thing, you ever watched The Little Rascals when you were a kid? Remember The Little Rascals with Spanky, Alfalfa, Buckwheat, Porky? Remember that? And so this play where he would say, friends, Romans, and countrymen, lend me your ear. He was actually mimicking Julius Caesar. That's where I actually got that phrase from, man. So anyway, and then Gohai from Japan, konnichiwa, right? Here, let me see. Konnichiwa, otashi wa Victor Antonio desu. That's all I know, man. That's all I know, man. Anyway, day 58 in triple digits, but dropping to 101 by Tuesday. Man, that's amazing temperature, man. Amazing temperature, man. And by the way, I just want to thank you guys, man. This is episode number 6. I told myself I'd go all the way to the end of the year, man. So I don't know what that number is going to be, but I'm going to go all the way through the end of the year on these live streams, man. So, I want to set the example, man. I have a lot of friends who, when I first started doing this, like, why are you doing this, right? And so... and I just told him, man, I'm committed. I'm like 3 a week. I'm committed, right? So unless something happens to me, like I get sick or something, I'm on track, right? And what I'm trying to show people is that, you just have to be consistent and persistent, man. Do you know what I mean? That's really part of the success equation, right? And people say, Victor, do you have a plan with Sales After Dark? What's your master plan? And between us, don't tell anybody, but there is no master plan. I just want to share some content with you guys and hope you guys love hanging out with me. And that's all I really want out of this. If I get more visibility on the internet, that's fine. That's great. That's kind of what you want anyway. It's part of the marketing strategy. But really it's about, doing something I enjoy doing, which is just talking to you guys and hanging out, sharing information. So I just want to emphasize, man, I know a lot of people, when I first started, weren't doing any content. And as they're watching me do this content, they're like, man, you're still going. And the answer is, I told you I am committed to the end of the year. And I function best that way. Let me know if you're like that. It's like when you just kind of put a stake out in the future. It's like when you put a stake out in the future and it's like that's it. And you just stay focused, man. It always reminds me of those horses, man. You ever see the horses when they put blinders on the horses? That's what I have right now. Blinders in some cases are good, man. So I'm like, I am focused. We're going to the end of the year. And so far, some good things have come from this Sales After Dark, man. Maybe when I get to episode 100, that's going to be a celebration. And I'm going to share some cool stuff with you guys, man. So anyway, let me see who else is on the line. TJ, my man agrees with me. That's right. If you don't stay woke, you go broke. There you go, man. Sparrow says, "What's up, Mick? During the week, I got off work later this Sunday, man. Dude, I'm just breaking your backside, if you know what I mean, man. I'm just having fun with you, man. So the fact that you can join me, I always appreciate you. Sooner, later, whatever it may be, man. I'm glad you're here, man. Hey, Victor from Orlando. Well, I know it's hot down there. TJ. Good morning, man. I know you're over there, and there he is, Doug Larry, the big DL, breaking it down in layman's terms with virtual Vonda. That's an inside joke. I won't even get into it because me and Doug just go back and forth at it. Aida Moed Hadif, morning from Malaysia. How you doing? Aida, pleasure to see you. Eric Klein, keep rocking, man. Check out Eric Klein Production. I'm so excited. Eric Klein is doing a documentary. And, dude, I'm telling you, Eric, listen to me, man. When you're ready to promote this documentary, it's like, I think he said, can I give him this much? It's about a 30-minute documentary, and that's all I can tell you, right? And it's whenever it's released, let me know. I'm really proud of what you're doing with that documentary, man. So anyway, thank you, man. The king of content. Love that, man. Thank you. Pete What's happening, man? Pete's a great guy, man. I love Pete. Bridget Springer. Bridget, where you been? Where you been, my love? Where you been? Good evening. I like hanging out with you, man. Thank you very much. TJ says, we greatly appreciate it, man. I appreciate you guys. Like I said, I really enjoy hanging out with you guys. So I love doing this. Gators are cold-blooded. You'll be fine, Brian. Giving you a high right there. Committed or be committed. You are an inspiration. There it is, man. You got to commit to something, man. Matthew says, hey, Victor, my 4-year-old Adeline loves your video. Well, I love Adeline. You let her know, man. I let her back at you. There he is. The M&M man, Michael Moore, back patio, sun setting, a nice toddy, getting better. Let's go. By the way, so Michael Moore, he's just killing the pool business, man. He's an awesome dude, man. Just an awesome dude, man. So, hey, man, chill. Have one on me, Michael. Have one on me. Andy Lamb, you can't have a millionaire dream on a medium wage work ethic. Boom. There you go, man. What is it? You can't have a... Oh, God, it was something about champagne. Come on, somebody's going to have to come up with the line. You can't have champagne wishes with beer money or something like that. It was just a good line, man. Tahir says, good morning, Parawala. Good morning back at you, man. There you go. Progressing in your SVA. Man, just get through it, man. Like I said, if you have questions on the SVA, you need some guidance, again, email me at victor@victorantonio.com. It's always that simple, man. Eric, man, I'm looking forward to it, man. I'm really looking forward to that. Tahir's from India. Pete and Gator, check it out. Leon Daly from Jamaica. Happy to be here. Happy to have you, man, Leon. The backdrop is awesome. I'm working hard, man, trying to make it look awesome. Check out my pen right there. I post my pens online, my pictures. And no, I do not sell my pens. Eventually I might have to sell. I think my wife's looking at me like, you got too many pens. I got 2 giant cases full of pens. But they're like your babies, you know, when you like develop them, it's like, so it's kind of cool. And man, thank you, Pete. By the way, if you haven't checked out the Sales Velocity Academy, boom, check that out. And don't forget to subscribe on YouTube. Hit that little bell so you get the notification when I go live. So, all right, today, in this episode, I'm going to dedicate this one to the entrepreneurs of the house, man, if I can do that. I started thinking about entrepreneurs, right? And I really started thinking about, what is it? And I guess I don't want to get into this, I watched the video online, right? And it was between, I can say this much, one person was trying to advocate capitalism and the other person was advocating socialism, right? And I said, man, I don't think he understands capitalism. I really don't think he understands what capitalism is. And free market, laissez-faire, Adam Smith, all that good stuff. And so I said, well, what is it that people don't understand? The risk that entrepreneurs take. You guys Google this because I'm sure the numbers change, but I think 85% of businesses fail. Now, if you think about it, man, 85% of businesses fail in the United States. That's a big number, man. 85%. And so, but nobody sings a swan song for all these companies who've risked everything. I mean, you think about it. If you're an entrepreneur, many of you are on right now, right? If you're an entrepreneur, man, you move the chips in, man. You know what I mean? You're gambling and you're taking all the risk. So if you're taking the risk, you should get the reward. But I really started breaking apart what do entrepreneurs really risk, right? That's why I titled this one, Entrepreneur Fire, the perils of profit, the perils or the dangers of profit, the perils of profit. And I started kind of saying, okay, what do entrepreneurs really risk? Like if I were to explain something to somebody about, entrepreneurs, capitalism, this is what I would want people to understand. I want people to understand what entrepreneurs really put on the line in order to make the economy move. Because it's a misconception that large companies basically employ the majority of the people in the United States. It's not true. Small businesses employ. It's almost like the 80-20 rule. 20% of the, if you look at the small businesses, which is about 80%, maybe 85% of the market, if not more, these are the people that are employing the majority of people in the United States. It's not the large corporations. We can argue about revenue size and revenue share. I get that. But the majority of people who are employed by small business owners, small, medium-sized businesses. These are people who at one time were entrepreneurs, built their business, kept growing. So I started asking myself, so let's look at the revenue equation. Let's go real simple, and then just bear with me. I'm going to go somewhere with this, but I want us to understand. Let me get a thinner marker here. let's start out with the basic equation. Let's start out real simple, right? When you look at revenue, let me go with a dark color, that would probably help right here. So when you look at revenue, right? You look at revenue, we all know the equation, right? Revenue minus cost equals what? Profit, right? And this is what we love, right? The profit piece, right? We love profit. But now, this part I don't have to explain. This is what? Sales, right? This is what we always talk about. This is the sales piece. So I don't want to talk about this tonight. What I want to do is I want to focus on the other side. Because if you're an entrepreneur, you have your own business, this is the ultimate equation, right? This is kind of what you're looking for. What comes in? What goes out? What do I keep? And by the way, one could argue that you don't even keep that because you probably have to give a certain percentage of that to the government, right? So keep in mind, revenue minus your costs, profit, then you're going to get taxed on that profit, right? So these are all the costs associated. But what I want to do is I want to look at this right here because I want to understand, and I want anybody who watches this is to really understand what people put on the line when they decide to start their own business. And I don't care if you're a one-man band, in other words, you're only one person, or you're 50 to 100, doesn't matter. The question is, what's the real cost? So let's go through the real cost. I think it's worth analyzing what is that entrepreneurs really put on the line. Because without them, we will not be successful. The economy will not move. So let's pretend for a second, it could be manufacturing or service, but let's begin with the material costs, right? There's always materials that you're going to need, right? There's always materials, and that costs money. Nobody gives you materials. You have to start out with something. So I always use the example of, for example, if I wanted to manufacture, I don't know, a bottle, right? I got to get the what? I got to get the material, right? I got to get the material, and I got to get the tools. We could say the capital equipment. So when you look at material, you're also looking at getting the tools that you'll need, right, to manufacture that. So cost is material plus the tools, also known as the capital equipment. That's an investment. That's a big investment usually, right? So let's just call that cost number one. Now, by the way, if you're selling a service, do you have to have tools? Absolutely. When you look at the tools that you need to organize your business, you're going to need tools. So let's move to the second category. So now we got the materials and the tools, right? The second category we have to look at, which is this one's a big one. Now I'm just going to put labor, right? Labor. And just bear with me. Let me get through the basic stuff, and then I'll show you where I'm going with this, okay? Because we have labor. When you look at labor, for those of you who like, accounting, there's general costs, right? There's what? There's sales, and then there's admin, what we call GSA, right? General costs, and again, these are different buckets. You can break them out any which way. By the way, I would also add marketing here also, just to throw it in there, right? Because when we build it, we still have to what? We have to find people to move it. In other words, there has to be people to maintain it, right? People have to sell it. We have to find people to market it, and we have to find people to help us manage, the actual organization or the company itself. This managers, office managers, you get the idea. So these are two basic costs. Now these are big costs. I mean, this is like heavy investment costs, right? And again, there's no guarantee of success. These are the big costs. But here's where I'm going to draw the line, because when you talk to people, most of the time they're just talking about these two costs. Victor, they're talking about what it costs to get the business going, and then what does it cost to grow it, sustain it, and maintain it, right? Which is general costs, sales, marketing, and then admin. Are there any other costs? Let me ask you, are there any other costs? Yes or no? What other costs would you add? Help me out, guys. Let's draw a line right there. Are there any other costs you would add? What other costs would you add? Give me a number. Give me a number. Anybody. Give me something. What would you add? Let me see. TJ says, how do you differentiate an entrepreneur and a business person, a businessman? I think it's the same thing, man. It really is. It's just scale. We can look at an entrepreneur as an individual and a business, but it's a businessman at the same time. Anybody who's involved in business, I just put them together. I think we use the word entrepreneur to say, I'm just starting out, right, as a one person. But that person has to understand business. So Ramon Batan says, Victor's my brother. Thank you, man. Appreciate that. What other costs would you add to that? Let me see. This is the reason why we have to have a business model, Victor, right? Where is the total cost of running the business? Absolutely, but I'm pushing you harder. Give me more. Bridget says training. Say, Bridget, let's put that under general. Okay, so that would be back over here. So I like that. I like your answer, by the way. I like your answer. I would put that still right here, right? But I'm telling you, there's more costs. There's costs we're not thinking about. By the way, space and office, that falls under, again, when you look at the administration, the GSA, I'm putting that all under there. Labor, you can put it under equipment, office. In other words, what's capital equipment to actually manufacture something, but you can also use office equipment like printing, supplies, and we can put that under general. So I would still put that under the labor piece. By the way, I'm putting everything in big buckets here, so I get it. You're absolutely right. Space lease, we will put that under general or administration on that one. Equipment, again, I could put that under manufacturing, which would be materials, right? Capital equipment, or I can put it under, the GSA, right? Same thing. So, and again, I'm being by the way, you guys are not wrong. I'm just putting it under two big buckets right now. So you're paying taxes, we'll have to get that. Advertising, utilities, insurance, eccentric, let's put that under also the second bucket here. Because all I'm doing, by the way, so if you look at it, bucket number one, again, anything that has to do with, we're going to call that materials and tools. The tools would include the capital equipment, right? Let me take this off. Sorry about that. So I would say that's bucket number one. We're calling that C1, the cost one. Then the second bucket is almost the catch-all. This is where you would put your office equipment. This is where you would pay your salespeople, your marketing people, your admin people would fall in cost number two. And so you guys are right. Paying taxes, insurance, we'll put that under bucket number two. Eric, if you don't mind, we'll put that up there as well. Paying taxes, somebody got cost of your time. Oh, sure, you're getting close right there. You're getting close. Opportunity cost of doing an activity. Tahir is on it, man. These are good points. So the last two comments are dead on, man. That's where I'm kind of going. So now let's look at, we know what the material costs are, right? What it costs to get the business up and running, right? That's the cost. Now to set up the office, the space, hire the right people. So we got all that, right? But now, this is where I drew the line, because there is a real cost here that most of us never think about. And this is where we don't give entrepreneurs credit, people who start businesses, the real credit. So what I want to do is I want to move to the second one. Let me go to the third bucket. You tell me if you agree with my third bucket, okay? And the third bucket would be, I'm going to call this cost number three. And that is your personal time. Now, it may sound simple, personal time, but let me highlight what this means, is that you have to be there. For example, if you have to meet with a group of people that is your personal time, you have to be there. If you have to be in the office, you have to be there. This is why entrepreneurs work those 12, 14, 16 hours a day, right? And even on weekends. Your personal time is part of that investment. And so you have to be there all the time. Would you agree with that? Okay? It's you having to do everything. You have to pick up the phone call. If you have to hire people, you have to do part of the interview. You're always in there just doing something. That's the third cost. Now let's go to the fourth cost. This is the big one, I think. This is the big one nobody thinks about. When you look at this one, and I'm going to spend some time on this one, this is the one we don't talk about, but everybody knows. And that is the mental cost to the entrepreneur. Now think about this. This is big. The mental cost to the person who is investing all their money. Think about that. What is the mental cost? Again, personal cost is you're physically there. But when you're out of the office, what's the mental cost? Weekend comes, you're at home. What are you thinking about? Business, right? You're thinking about, did I make the right decision? You're thinking about risk, cost benefit. What is the mental cost? You can't put that on the books. You can't write that out as an equation somewhere. You can't. It's all those little moments. You're driving to the office, right? Not right now with COVID, but you know what I mean. If you're driving to the office, what are you thinking about? Work. What's the mental cost? And so this is what I think we don't think about, is that entrepreneurs really invest a lot of time, personal time, being there, doing this, doing that, meeting with that person. But the mental cost, I think that's to me the most, I'll just use the word eccentric because we got my man on here, the most eccentric cost that we never talk about. Because let's think about an entrepreneur. and see if you agree with me. And I'll take some of these comments. Let me just take, these are some good ones here. So Eric says, I like what Eric's already saying. Eric's 100% in. Travel costs, by the way, we'll put that. Mental and emotional costs. Pete, you're in the game, man, right? Because it's what we think about. Eric Klein Production says, yes, yes, yes. I think about my business and related things all the time. So this is a cost that most people don't see. So when you hear these stories, I'm going to go all the way to the other extreme. When you hear these stories about these CEOs that make, I don't know, 10x, 20x, 30x the amount of money people make, you got to keep in mind that these people are never off the clock. They're never off the job. They're always thinking about it. Even if they're not personally there, they're in bucket number 4, which is the mental cost of always having to be in the game. What does Matthew say? Especially when you borrow money from your friends and family. Whew, that's a lot of extra pressure, right? How am I going to pay this back? How am I going to pay this back? And then Tahir says, is mental measurable? I don't think so. I don't think you can measure that. And I think that's something that, I don't even know how you would put a value on that thing. But I think we underestimate, or we don't take into account, that entrepreneurs, people who start their own businesses, have so much mentally invested because they're all the time in the game. And so, let me see. Eric says creative business is 3/4 personal time. Right? I can't argue with that. Amen to that. What do you got, Justin? Justin says, when it's commissions based and a deal doesn't go through, that can sit with you, but it becomes your job to not let it stifle your momentum. Absolutely, Justin. Sales is no different. I would always get mad at people who always think salespeople just take customers out to dinner and don't do much. Just mentioned a couple of things. But they don't understand that as salespeople, we're going home going, all right, I didn't get that deal. Now what do I do? Where do I find more customers to refill the pipeline? Can I close more deals? Can I upsell that? And you're strategizing all the time. You're not doing any physical work, but your mental game is, always on point. There's I remember I read it when we're talking about, neuroscience. There's an interesting fact. Your brain is 2% of your body weight. Your brain weighs 2% of your body weight, but it consumes 20% of your energy. Think about that. It consumes 20% of your energy. You ever have one of those days where you didn't do anything physically, but you're just tired when you get home? That's because your brain is cranking, man. It's using up energy. So I'm with you, Justin, man. As salespeople, especially when you start getting to manager level, director, VP, and you got to start thinking about strategy. I mean, it never goes away. I can't tell you how many times my wife would complain about, you're always on the phone, right? And if I'm not on the phone, I was always distracted because I was mentally in the game trying to get there. So that's why I admire entrepreneurs, man. As Mark Cuban says, there's entrepreneurs and wantrepreneurs, right? Some people understand the cost and some people are willing to, and we're going to get there, man. We're going to talk about that, Eric. So let's talk about what mentally in the game means, because when I started thinking about it, I said, when you're mentally in the game, by the way, I'm still in bucket 4, which is the mental game. You have to plan, right? You have to plan. If you think about it, you got to plan. You also got to what? Try to solve problems, right? Then you got to implement. If you have to implement something new, you got to implement a new strategy. And then after you implement something, you assess. I think entrepreneurs are in these 4 states or modes at all times. At all times, they're in one of these 4 states. I'm either in the planning mode. Got to figure this out. Stuff's not going right. All right, I need to solve this problem. We got a new problem. How do we solve it? Got to solve the problem. Got to figure this out. Got to figure this out. All right, I think I found the solution. Boom. All right, let's implement this thing. How much is it going to cost? All right, let's do it because we have no alternative, right? Now we got implementation mode. And then we got to assess whether what we're doing is right or wrong. This to me is critical right here. This one deserves a big red, because this right here, when you look at the assessment piece, this is what makes or breaks an entrepreneur, right? Thinking of a plan is great. Solving a problem, if we got it. Implement something new. But the ability to assess, to move left to right, make these decisions, that's where real entrepreneurial spirit comes in. That's where the fire comes in, right? And so again, this is what's going on all the time. I don't know how much time you can assess to just this process, but that's bucket number 4. So let's do a quick recap, because I want to make sure we're all on the same page. And then I'm going to give you bucket number 5, right? And bucket number 5, so bucket number 1, we said the first cost you're going to have, we said is going to be like material and tools, right? Materials plus tools, right? Capital equipment, things like that. The second bucket is labor. These are people that actually run the business, whether it's sales, whether it's marketing, whether it's administration, general, whatever you need, right, to run the business. The third bucket, if you think about it, is what? Number 3 would be personal effort, right? That's your personal time. That means you're there. That's you physically being there, right? Then C4 is what we talked about, is the mental cost, right? And the mental cost, man, like I said, this is huge. That is big. Most people only think above the line right here, right? This is all they think about. When they think about entrepreneurs, they say, well, it's not a big deal. You get capital equipment, you put it in, you start making money. I'm like, no, it's not the way it works. We got these two. But number five is like the ultimate bucket. It is the ultimate bucket that most of us, at least one person on this stream thought of it. And that is bucket number 5 is the big one. And that is what somebody already mentioned, which is what? Opportunity cost. This is huge, man. This is huge because it is what you've given up. How do you put a price? How do you put value on what you've given up? Let me grab some of these comments, man. Sparrow's Tail says, I literally dream about sales strategies. I wake up at 2, 3 in the morning, sometimes racking my brain on how to boost sales. The business and the work I work for is a bit tight spot right now. I'm not complaining. You're welcome to the club, man. I mean, that's what we do all the time, right? Deming, like the Deming cycle, as in Edward Deming, Mr. Total Quality Management. For those of you who don't know what I'm referring to, Edward Deming was the guy that came up with, was it TQM? He was the guy that really helped the Japanese really kick our butts. There's a long story behind that. Pete, I think, knows what I'm talking about, right? Edward Deming was a genius, man. Tahir says, Victor, you hit the right topic today, man. I'm glad I'm also an entrepreneur. I always think about business, how to boost sales, man. We're always thinking like that. How do you do it? And this one says, please do a video on how to identify, handle, and avoid tire kickers. They're the biggest time consumers, and time is money. It always is, man. We'll do something on that. But so on this one, if you think about opportunity costs, I mean, think about it. How do you, here, answer this question. What did you have to give up? To give up. That's a big question, man, right? What did you sacrifice? Because that's the real cost of being an entrepreneur. We talked about, you got materials, tools, cost 1. Number 2, materials. Rather when you get into the office, GSNA, everything you need to run the business. Then it's personal, you're there. 4th is mental, you're always in the game. But the biggest cost is, what did you have to give up? How many times did you have to miss an event with your family because you had to run the business? You had to do something. And I think, and when I add all this up, like I said, what gets me sometimes is that people think that starting a business is easy. It's not. And it's not just capital that you put in. By that I mean money. It's all the time and effort, the stuff, the invisible stuff that you can't quantify that people don't see. And that's all I really wanted to talk to you about tonight. I guess I wanted to celebrate the entrepreneurs out there, man. If you're an entrepreneur, man, you're starting your own business, man, I am celebrating you tonight, man, because I know what it takes to put it all on the table and say, let's roll the dice. The majority of people won't do that. There was a study that came out several years ago. It says 87%, believe it's 87% of the people are unhappy or are ready to quit their jobs. Think about that. 87% of the population is either unhappy or willing to quit their jobs. 87%. Why? Because they're working for somebody else. And again, there's nothing wrong with working for somebody else. So I want to be clear. There's nothing wrong. I know people who work for other people who love it. But the fact that 87% are not happy, that means the majority don't enjoy working for somebody else. And we're not taught in school how to become entrepreneurs. Have you ever thought about that? That if we really value the entrepreneurial spirit, the entrepreneurial fire, then why isn't that we're taught this in school? In school, we're taught, go to school, get the education, then graduate, get a job. Nobody has said, hey, go to school, get an education, learn and launch your own business. I mean, think about it. How many entrepreneur classes did you have in high school or even elementary school, grade 1 through 8? How many classes? High school, how many did you have? College, how many did you have? Everything was about getting a job, trying to get a job, getting a job, getting a job. And I think what's happening today is it's a good time to have this discussion because, when you don't feel a sense of control, when you don't feel a sense of control in your life, it's because somebody else is running it, because somebody else is running the company. The reason I think the pandemic has a silver lining is because it's causing a lot of people to rethink their position. It's causing them to say, look, I got fired, downsides, whatever word you want to use. In other words, you ain't working there anymore. And what's happening now is a lot of people are caught because they don't have the skill sets. They've always done a specific job. It reminds me of that old movie, did you ever watch Metropolis? It's like a 1935 Fritz Lang movie. By the way, if you know what I'm talking about, Metropolis, let me know. Where they show these guys just walking into a factory and just doing one thing, moving some levers. That's all they do all day. The film was around the Industrial Revolution, so that was the mindset. But what's interesting is that they only knew that one skill set. And when that skill set's no longer needed, what happens? You're gone. And all of a sudden, you're wondering, what am I going to do? I'm not saying quit your job, run out and start your business, but I'm planting the seed for those of you who haven't thought about it. Is like, why not start your own thing? Maybe on the side, a little side hustle, if you know what I mean, a little side gig on it, and maybe get something going. So anyway, just some thoughts. Let me take some of these comments, man. Eric says, the big one is time, man. It is. Time and family, you got it. Mostly no more life, man. That's it. And then there it is. Michael Moore understands sweet equity. When you build your business, man, and it works, it's equity in your business. And then, my man has it right, man. If you got a job, you're always going to be, what does it stand for? Just over broke, because that's what you'll always be. Because they give you just enough to keep you there, if you know what I mean. Thank you for the inspiration and reigniting the entrepreneurial fire, man. Absolutely. There should be a financial and entrepreneur class, in schools. There should be. When I did my show Life or Debt, I was blown away by how many people didn't know much about finances. But when it comes to like starting a business, there was a program I spoke to at years ago here in Atlanta. It was called Something Seeds. And what they did was beautiful. One of the things they did is that they would go to high schools, and recruit kids who wanted to join their program. It was called the Something Seeds program. And what they were tasked to do is to start their own little business, little side business. As you have 14, 15, 16-year-old kids starting businesses. And you can develop your own product. I remember one of the students went to Costco and negotiated pricing with the Costco people, right? So he got it almost at cost, and they turned around and sold his products. Now, these kids are only making $100, $200, but it doesn't matter. They were learning how to be entrepreneurs. What if we had started young, learning how to hustle, man? I remember my first, candy stand, lemonade stand. Didn't make any money. I ate most of the profits. But I guess it was always in me that one day I would do my own thing. You know what I mean? And so, anyway, just talking out loud here. There were TVs in 1935? I don't think so, man. Were there? Was it? Look it up, man. Fritz Lang. Look, what year was Metropolis? Look it up, man. Somebody's got it. Fritz Lang, Metropolis. Look up the year, man. Let me see. Very important to remember the tax man and having a very good accountant you can trust when running your business. Absolutely, Jing. Like I said, when I wrote that, remember, revenue minus cost equal profit, but profit's tax. And our goal is to keep as much as we can. I always tell people I'm only focused on two things, and that is how do I increase my revenue, right? And then how do I reduce my cost by what? First of all, reducing cost, but also trying to get every legal tax write-off I can get. So that's what we should focus on. How do I make more money, and how do I basically reduce my tax base? I mean, that's smart thinking, so you're absolutely right. Eric's back again. Let me see what you got, Eric. What's your advice on and when your team are investing too much time on a project? When does the opportunity cost too much in collective resources? That's a tough one, Eric. I don't know. You know what I mean? It's one of those things where, if the project has long-term potential, then investing, makes sense. I think it also has that gut feel has to come in, right? If you're working on a project and in the long run this is going to really work out, then you're going to invest, more time, and your runway is going to get longer. So it's a gut call, man. That's the best I got for you. Sorry. TJ, agree. I agree with Pete. Absolutely. And so, again, I just wanted to talk to you about this today because I think it's important to understand that, when people criticize entrepreneurs or want to tax companies to death, like, in this conversation that was being had, I think the tax rate is 30, 35, or 37% at certain ranges. And they were like, why don't you tax people like at 60 or 70%? I'm like, what? You know, because there was a time, I think it was back in the 70s, that I think the tax rate was actually like 90%. Somebody could correct me if I'm wrong, but it was some crazy number like that. But I mean, can you imagine being taxed at like 60%, 70%? That means for every $100 you make, somebody takes 70. What will that do to your motivation when somebody's taking the majority of your money? Makes no sense, right? And so I believe there should be a tax, by the way. In case you're wondering, yeah, I believe, of course, you have to have taxes. I wish they would do a flat tax, though. That would be my thing. You know, I don't know what that number is, but I would put it around 30, 35 flat tax. Imagine if you had a flat tax, right? Large companies wouldn't like that because there's no loopholes to take advantage of. But imagine if you had a flat tax, let's say 30%. Then you know what your costs are to the government are always going to be. Then you can work from that. So I don't know what the right answer is. A progressive tax, I don't believe in it so much. Flat tax, I don't know. But we got to find something that allows us to keep money for us to grow our business. But let's be honest, we also have to put money back into society because we have to live in the environment. The infrastructure is needed. We have to have the right community, so forth and so on. So I wanted to hit that. That was it. That's all I have for you guys tonight. Like I said, my personal feeling is that entrepreneurs are the badasses in this world. These are the people that start businesses, build, starts out with one person, and again, start building business, you start scaling, and you're making big money. I know people criticize Jeff Bezos, for example. I mean, is he now officially the first $2 billion man or something like that? And look how much money the guy's making. What people don't understand is look at how much money he's putting back into education, opportunities, and the number of people he's employing. But keep in mind that this guy started out of basically, just go online and just look up Jeff Bezos when he started with Amazon. I mean, he's got a spray painted sign that says Amazon, and the guy was by himself in a room, right? Just coding this stuff out, trying to figure out how to sell, books online. I mean, think about that. I said, there's got to be a reward for that. Like I said, that's a lot of money, but you know what? At the end of the day, they're going to give it back. You know what I mean? Nobody takes it with them. Michael Moore, closing deals and taking calls while in the line for Space Mountain pays itself back tenfold in referrals. Personal customer service. Big sacrifice, but huge dividends every time. That's why we do what we do, right? That's why we do it. We know there's the return on investment's there, but it's still a gamble when you're first starting out, but you're at Space Mountain. That's too funny, man. I like that. All right. Ryerson University offers an entrepreneur major as an option. Interesting. I didn't know that, Matthew. Did you also know, Matthew, that more and more universities, I don't know what the number is. Last time I checked, it was 17, but I know it's higher than that, are now offering bachelor's degrees in sales. We have a university here called Kennesaw who's actually offering a degree in sales. Think about that for a second. Training the future salespeople. I love that, man. Let me see. What I learned, VA's entrepreneur cares for his people. Businessman cares only about his earnings. What do you think about this? It's too this or that. I never liked this or that. I like to believe that businessmen do care about earnings, but they also care about people. I don't subscribe to the businessmen are all evil or businesswomen are all evil. I think we have to understand that. Think about it. They're creating wealth. They're creating jobs where no jobs were there. I mean, we should thank business people. I don't want to say we should worship them, but I'm just saying we should thank them. Because let me take my man Eric Klein here. Eric Klein has a production company, right? So he has an idea. I want to start a production company. He starts his production company. All of a sudden, he grabs his first deal, gets first business, has to hire people. Then grabs another deal, gets more people, hires more people. So Eric still cares about people. He's just grown his business. Now he's making more money. Great. Now Eric has options, but the people that he hired, basically he created those opportunities. And I think this is what people don't get. Business people create opportunities. Now, TJ, I'm not saying that there aren't business people out there who don't give a rip about society. I'm sure they're a few and far between. I think they're few and far between. I don't think they're a majority of people. I think what we don't see in the media, and this is what bothers me, is all the people who are giving back. I mean, giving back lots of money into the community through philanthropy. Some people don't even want to be identified. They just give the money anonymously. And so I think we need to not castigate the businessman by just shaming them. I think we should celebrate them. and encourage them to give money back to their communities. There's nothing. Look, we always know that you can yell at somebody, or you can just basically say, "Great job you're doing. Thank you for giving us money for the community," and you're going to see a big difference in response. So let's not yell at them. Let's be kind to them. I think. I don't know. That's just me. Pete says, "Amen." He's around 133 billion. Just, yeah, a couple of points, right? That's a couple of points. Yeah. Have you ever raised capital from investors? I have not. Let me think back. No, I have not. I was thinking because we sold a company, we sold a technology company, but that wouldn't qualify. We found a buyer for our company, but I've never had to raise capital for investors. By the way, you've read that book by, what is it, Oren Clough, Pitch Anything? Oren Clough. Great book. That should be a primer on presenting, on getting money from people, or investors rather. So check that book out. Let me know if I'm right. Check the book. It's Oren Clough, and I think it's Pitch Anything. Great book. And yeah, Pete, I'm with you. Look at the number of jobs he's created. And by the way, I want you to think about this. Let's kind of peel this back a little bit. This is what people don't understand about capitalism. Because not only did he create jobs within Amazon, people just stop there, but you're missing the point. He says, so he's got all these, I'll just say data centers, right? Monstrous data centers to manage all this data, right? So all this data center requires housing somewhere, some warehouse. So in other words, he had to go throughout the U.S. and buy land, right? Which now he's contributing to the local what? State economy. So he's doing that. So there's some state economy. Also, keep in mind, he had to buy servers, equipment to go into these data warehouses. Where did he buy it? From large manufacturers. Who do large manufacturers employ? More people. So the ripple effect is what we're talking about here when we look at capitalism and entrepreneurialism, man. So to me, it's mind-blowing when you think about what he's done. Victor, your show Life or Dead is mind-blowing. Will there ever be a season 2? No. I'll just say there were some internal battles at Spike TV, and that thing should have been renewed for a second season, but it wasn't. And so we shopped it around after that, but it was too complicated to kind of switch it over. So we kind of said, okay. And to be honest, I was okay with that. It was a tough show to do, very tough. I would like to see this broken down into sales professions. Some sales positions require huge sacrifice, stress. Others, not so much. I agree. But you should be compensated accordingly, right? The people who have to go out there and hunt, right, and actually get the deals, and everything's based on their compensation plan, those are the people who usually get all the upside. Now, there's people who sell inside who maybe don't have to carry a quota. Look, if you carry the quota, you should make the money if you hit it. That would be my statement. So yeah, I'm sure there's a couple of people who, some hanger-ons. A degree in sales will be a lot better than many others. I agree. We're always going to use that, right, Chris? We're always going to use our sales skills, whether it's for a job interview or selling our product, our service, our idea, our vision, our enthusiasm. Dude, we're always selling. So it's a degree that doesn't go anywhere. It's either that or learn about the history of the ants, right, which will not help you in any way. So good point. Hey, Victor, do you have any advice on a system for what percentage of your income to put away for taxes when working a 1099 job? Well, it depends how much you're making, man. There's different numbers that you can use, but I don't want to give you tax advice because I just don't want to do that. But it depends on how much you're making. But I'm sure if you go online, there's some percentages you can figure out. Let me see. Jack Ochoa. I'm taking 27 years of local government sales and show small business how to level the $500 spent every nanosecond launching this fall. Well, good for you, man. There you go. Take that. See, and that's the other thing, Jack, that you bring up a great point. And there was a guy by the name of Alvin Toffler, a futurist. He wrote a couple of books back in the 80s. One was Power Shift. I think it was called Power Shift. And I'm trying to remember the name. Power Shift. Alvin Toffler, futurist, Power Shift. And he talked about how as you move from the Industrial Revolution, where it's all about you only bring your labor, but they own the capital equipment, to what he called the knowledge-based society, which we obviously see today, where the machinery for success is no longer at the factory. The machinery for success is where? Boom, right here. The capital goes home every night. Compared to the Industrial Revolution where they had the machinery, you have the machinery. In this knowledge-based society, you have the machinery. And if you can use that machinery to help other companies grow and you make money. See, to me, that's always the win-win, right? If I can give you something of value, you give me something back of value, that's win-win. So I love what you're doing, man. Congratulations. I wish you the best on that. For sure, most are independent contractors like you and me. They're entrepreneurs too. Yeah, man. If you're not working for a company and you own it, then you own it. So whether you're an entrepreneur, small business owner, I don't care what you want to call it, you're on the hook, man, for it all. It's about a hand up, not a handout. Boom. I love it, man. Yeah, I do. I was, as you wrote that, I was reading that, I was like thinking about this statement that says, the difference between capitalism and socialism is that in capitalism, you learn how to build a ladder, right? In socialism, somebody's at the top of the building and they throw a rope down and they pull you up, right? That's socialism. That was the analogy being used. And the difference being that you're always depending on the person pulling you up. That's the problem with that system. But in capitalism, once you build the ladder and you know how to build the ladder, you can go as high as you want. And I've always loved that visual. I don't know why. I think it was Dinesh D'Souza that came up with that visual. I don't want to take credit for it. It's not mine. There was a time when I started a new business and was sitting in the office just thinking. Just literally thinking about what? How business will come was the biggest mental cost. Isn't that something when you're just sitting there? I think this morning, it was yesterday morning. I remember I was sitting in my office. I got up at 5:30, 6 o'clock. And I was just in deep thought for an hour. And I remember I just snapped out of it finally. I said, oh, what time is it? It's like an hour had gone by and I was in deep thought, just thinking about what am I going to do next? What do I need to do? Just different strategies. So man, there is that, man. Read Shoe Dog. Okay. Good recommendation, man. I'll look it up. Thank you so much. Always learning new things, man. Let me see what we got. So let me see what we got here. I think I shrunk this by accident, man. Sorry. I don't know how to get that back. Let me see if I can grow that again. I'm learning how to use this technology. There you go. We're counting job creation. We are counting jobs created as a single person employed by a company. We forget to include the people dependent on those employees. They will be in the millions. Absolutely. So if you hire 100 people, they have 2 or 3 people that they support. You're actually helping them out as well. So great point, man. Let me see. Not only the Amazon jobs created, but also the opportunities for entrepreneurs to sell their products on the platform. I forgot all about that, Sam. Thank you for highlighting that. Absolutely, because you can go on there and resell your books, your products, whatever it may be. So you're creating that opportunity. So imagine this guy created this platform that's just an amazing platform. How about a PhD in VA sales? That would be awesome. A doctor in sales, man. I'm off. Thanks for the info, man. Later, Eric, man. Thank you for being here. I'm going to wind up here in just a little. Brian says, see you on Tech Tuesday. Maria Centeno, Boricua. Thank you for joining us. A couple more. Hey, Victor, at what point would you start to employ labor and grow from single entrepreneur to a multi-person operation? Oh, Rod, man, I'm not going to answer that one. I think you need to deal with that one. It really depends, man, on your level of security in the business when you're trying to grow the business. So, that's a personal call. Do you know what I mean? It's that gets back to the risk, right? You're always in that 4-part that you're planning, you're assessing, should you implement, and then, should you try to solve a problem? That's the risk piece. That's what makes you an entrepreneur and a businessman. It's the Nike story. Any business owner will love it. Yeah, you got it, man. On that note, man, I'm going to start wrapping up here. Again, if you haven't checked out the Sales Velocity Academy, you should. And again, I always tell people, this is the tool that will carry you with you through the rest of your life. If you know how to sell, you'll always have a job. So, final thoughts as always. On the final thoughts, I would say, let's appreciate capitalists, entrepreneurs, small business owners, people who move the economy. And next time we look at an entrepreneur or a business person, let's not just look at the profit and loss statement. Let's look at the mental cost, the personal cost, the mental cost, and the opportunity cost, all the things they've given up just to achieve that. And then you have to ask yourself that question, am I willing to do that? Because anybody who's thinking, I think Eric pointed out that there's an entrepreneur, then a wannapreneur, or a wannabe entrepreneur. And that is, are you really willing to sacrifice, given your personal time, commit the mental time, but also the opportunity costs associated with that. And I think that's what separates people who are all in and people who are not. Some people just love the idea of being an entrepreneur. But when they look at the cost, and I'm not talking about the financial cost, I'm talking about the personal cost, the mental cost, and the opportunity cost, that is where some people will hang in there and other people will quickly just say, this is not for me. And so again, man, you guys are awesome. Thank you very much. We'll see you on Tuesday, where I got a cool piece of technology that I'm going to share with you, and I think you're going to like it. Thank you for joining me. Sales After Dark. Remember, selling ain't hard when you know how. Take care. See you on Tuesday.